Hey guys, how's it going? And happy Friday. I hope all of you guys are doing good. I was just sitting here hanging out with you guys for a few minutes in the chat, and just gives me a second to see what you guys are talking about. Because once the stream gets rolling, it's hard for me to keep track of everything. But keep this in mind, especially if you're new here. Throughout the weekend, after the stream, the next week, depending, I go through and read all of the chats. So if you guys are sending me little messages, words of encouragement, I really appreciate it. And I'm glad to have you guys here. I see for some of us, we had snow last night. I was up all night yet again, plowing snow, even though it was 60 degrees the other day and it's supposed to be 60 degrees in a couple days. But this is Michigan, and hopefully it's nice and warm where you guys are at. The snow's melting here, so hopefully all of you guys are doing good with the weather. And we need to be positive. And I want to say this before I even start, because the topic I'm going to talk about sucks. It sucks in and of itself. And these rules, promulgations of rules and regulations, they call it ghost guns. They call it frames and receivers. It's about the fundamental right to be an American. We've been able to build firearms in this country since before this country was a country. And if we wouldn't have been able to, we'd still be loyal British subjects or subjects of some other country. And like I've said before, there's many, many fine people that live in all these countries throughout the world. I know there are, for a fact. People that love their families just as much as you love your family. People that God loves just as much as you. It's true. But at the same time, even though there's many great folks that live throughout this world, and many not so great too, obviously, but that also applies to the United States. I don't want to be like any other country. I want to live in a country that was founded on self-governance of the people, by the people, for the people, and that we have rights that are endowed by our Creator. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's such a beautiful thing. And I want you guys to cling on to things that are beautiful. And I want you guys to think about that, because that's very reassuring to me. Even though there's things going on right now that are 100% counterproductive to this republic, this constitutional republic of the United States of America. And it's sickening what's going on right now. And it pisses me off. And if you guys are mad, that's fine. We actually should be angry. I don't even think you could call yourself a real American if you weren't angry at what's going on right now. So, yeah, you want to be pissed off at your government? You should be, and I am too. But I want you guys to still care for each other and still try to be nice to the people that you know, because this life and this world sucks for a lot of people. And I get it, guys. It's like we're just losing everything 1,000 miles an hour. It's like this snowball. The faster it keeps going down the hill, the more snow it collects. And I do a lot of gun videos. I've done gun videos very recently on this channel, and I'm going to do plenty of more. But if we just keep putting our head in the sand and saying, doesn't affect me, nothing to see here, it doesn't matter. Do you guys remember me on this channel 2 years ago? It does matter, by the way. We're going to lose our whole country, and we're going to lose everything, because all the amendments matter. And the Second Amendment particularly matters, because in my opinion, the Founding Fathers put the Second Amendment there, not to grant you the right to keep and bear arms. That's endowed by your Creator, but to protect that natural right from government. And why did they put it there? They literally tell you why they put it there. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, and therefore shall not be infringed. And it says what it means, and it means what it says. And while I love all of these amendments that are prohibitions of government from treading on your natural rights, just keep remembering that and keep telling people that. The government did not grant you your rights, because if they did, they'd be able to take them away. See, you still have these rights. They're unalienable. Nobody can take them away from you, whether you're in prison, whether you're free, but they sure can put hurdles in place. And they can sure make your life a living hell on earth in the meantime. And that's what they're trying to do right now. And they're trying to make people weak, and they're trying to make people scared. And they put the Second Amendment there to protect all the rest of them. I'm completely and utterly convinced of that. Why? Well, obviously, history would prove that. Also, the fact that they're completely and utterly trying to destroy the Second Amendment also proves that. Because guess what? When the government fears the people, there's liberty. And we want to be free, and we want to have liberty. But when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. And what exactly is tyranny? Well, there's probably longer, fancier definitions. But look, guys, I went to a public school and a community college. So I'm basically going to put this as simply put as I can. Tyranny is, a tyrannical government is, a government that rules over the people outside of the rule of law. We're going to talk about some topics tonight that, in my opinion, is the government acting outside of the rule of law, ruling over you, treating as though you're a peasant, that you're not even able to live freely, that you're not able to have liberty, because they just want to rule with an iron fist. And I believe these proposals are 100% lawless by the AFT, the ATF. They're called so many things we don't even know. I mean, we're literally living in a country right now. And look, guys, just so you can see what I'm looking at right now when I kind of look down and what's kind of annoying me, here's all the paperwork for these new rules. Now, this isn't the Armbrace rule. That was a stack equally as thick as this that I talked about a month ago. This is just the frames and receivers ban right here, okay? The frames and receivers rules. And there's a lot more to it than just that. And I'm going to touch on it tonight the best I can, even though I probably have to talk for 2 or 3 weeks straight and fall asleep even trying to read all this. But this is what's going on here now. Now, when we talk about the 24,700 or so federal gun control laws that are on the books, that actually doesn't include this. This is actually just 3-letter agency bureaucrats. But don't worry, make sure your dog's in order when this stuff goes through, if you violate, if you're not deemed to be walking the tight line. But we live in a country right now, too. Just think about it. By the way, Susan WikiWiki, we're on YouTube, so welcome all of the YouTube employees, the teams that like to watch these streams. I hope you guys have a good show tonight, and let's go, Susan. But the former vice president, and this has everything to do with what's going on right now. No, it's not just him. You guys can leave if you want, but I'm going to call Trump out a little bit later too, but not as much as this one here. Let's go, Brandon. They call him the former vice president. And I would say this, since we're on YouTube. By the way, are you guys on Locals yet? A censorship-free platform? If not, definitely check the links down in the description. Tons of content, tons of streams, but we're in Susan's house. So according to YouTube, the Associated Press and Time Magazine, the most popular and the most fortified of all time. Just think about what that means. And let's think about what it means with what's going on right now. I think you guys have heard this propaganda. Ghost guns, ghost guns, ghost guns. Yeah, it's a real scary word. I mean, a ghost, something that's just elusive. It appears, it can pass through walls, it can do all these. No, look, they're talking about redefining frames and receivers. They're looking at redefining what a firearm is. And they're looking to put prohibitions in place that will make it very difficult for some and rather impossible for others to be able to build their own firearms. Now, let's see here. Why would you want to build your own firearm? Well, first of all, because we're Americans and we have that right. Everybody has that right in the whole world, but specifically as Americans, we have that right protected by the Second Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It doesn't say shouldn't be infringed. It doesn't say, well, maybe it'd be nice if you let the plebeian class have a few. Now, that's what the reasonable folks will try to tell you it means. They'll try to tell you that, hold on, you can still buy one at the store, so that doesn't violate your Second Amendment. You can still make your own as long as you put appropriate markings on it, with appropriate paperwork, with appropriate government forms. You guys remember the Form 4473? Do you remember a video that I did not too long ago when the GOA let out breaking news that they now have almost 1 billion firearms records? The ATF has a registry, guys, called out by Congress, by members of the United States Congress, of all people. Yeah, even Congress knows what's going on, and I'm going to read a letter from some senators before we're done tonight about a whole nother topic. But yeah, you can put it on a 4473. Just add to that billion registrations, registry entries, most of which are all digitized now. Yeah, it's a fact that was brought forth in front of Congress. The ATF came back, and they actually admitted to all of it. And they're not really afraid anymore. It used to be one of those things. You guys remember back in the 90s? Bill Clinton was president. Newt Gingrich came in with his contract with America, right? And a bunch of people voted for an assault weapons ban, the Brady Bill, the Gun Control Act of 1994, the assault weapons ban, which was promulgated off of the Gun Control Act of 68, promulgated off of the NFA of 1934, all of which are unconstitutional. Every single gun control is unconstitutional. Like literally all of them. And a bunch of Democrats lost at the polls. And then that ban expired in 2004. And for the longest time, they said, look, we're all anti-gun and we're going to vote. Okay, we're going to vote this way, but we can't campaign on it. Taboo, don't talk about it. And at one time in this country, not too long ago, that was the status quo because, look, these people don't care about you. They only care about power. The politicians, Washington, the bureaucracy, the legislature, the executive branch, even the judicial. It's power. And power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we're seeing that more and more now. Well, here's what I'm getting at. They're not really afraid anymore. Remember what I said a few minutes ago about who fears who? Yeah, when the government fears the people, there's liberty. When the people fear the government, there's tyranny. And now they're just wide out in the open with it. They're making secret rules that are now getting found out by United States senators today, many journalists. My friend John Crump's been talking about it. My friend Jared from Guns and Gadgets, I've been talking about it. They just don't even care anymore. They're literally going to shove this. Look, this is just part of it. They're just going to shove this in here. And there's a lot to it. But I hope you guys can stay positive. I really do. But we have to talk about these things. We just have to. And I want to do a really fun gun video. In fact, probably tomorrow night on the locals, I'll probably just show guns, which was what I did last time on there. Because I do love doing that too. But first of all, we're on YouTube. And if I were to even touch a firearm, I'd get grounded, right? Susan Wiki would say, go to your room, you're grounded. And I'm like, but here's the problem, honey. I'm married. My wife's prettier than you. I love her to death. I'm not going in the room with you. But, go to your room, she says, as she's found. You guys get the point, right? So, all right. I talked to you guys about a month ago about the braces rulemaking, promulgations of rules by unelected bureaucrats that are in the executive branch that, in my opinion, are tyrants and are acting completely outside the rule of law. I said it before, but I want to say it again. And if you guys haven't seen that stream, maybe if you're bored next week or throughout the weekend, go back and watch it. But I told you guys I'm going to talk about the ATF frames and receivers and mufflers and silencers and FFL records and armor-piercing ammunition and this and that. Yeah, it's literally so many more things than just literally frames and receivers, but that's the main part of it. Now there's been news breaking the last week, and I guess it's kind of good that I held off a few weeks on this because according to the Federal Register, and this is how flagrant they're being right now, guys. They're literally being this flagrant. This is the document I cited just about a month ago on this channel. It was published January 31st in the Federal Register. This is like literally the 100% official filing cabinet of all of the United States paperwork, right? You can only imagine what's in that filing cabinet. Redacted, classified. But they were being pretty straightforward here. And they said, well, we're going to redefine the braces and put out the final rule in August. And I shared that with you guys. And then I said, well, we'll talk about the frames and receivers. And here it is in writing from them. Now, guys, this is already fake news by our own government because I'm about to tell you they've changed their mind. Okay, final action. 6 of 2022. So they were going to put in the final rule, release it to us in June. And that's when we find out what the final rule is. Meaning all of this stuff I have right now, all the stuff that anybody in the public has that I know of, is the proposed rule. Technically, this could be exactly how the final rule is printed. Technically, they could change it. They could do many things. And I do have to say this, guys, because of the day and age we live in. Everything I'm going to talk about tonight is not to be construed as any legal advice. Not a lawyer, not giving legal advice. I'm not telling you guys what to do. I hope you would take any type of specific legal issues with your lawyer if you think you need one. This is strictly my commentary. Everything I'm saying is my opinion tonight. And I'm mainly just here to hang out with you guys and, try to opine on these legal documents that be honest with you guys, I can't completely understand either, but I get the gist of what's going on. So with that said, hopefully you all were listening, Susan. So now we found out that they're actually going to put the final rule out in April, moving it ahead 2 months. And instead of giving people a 90-day compliance period, meaning regular people and industries, companies that are involved in these types of products, they're going to move it from 90 days down to 60 days. So they've shortened the announcement of the new rule by 2 months, and they've shortened the compliance period by 1 month. Yeah, literally. Do you guys remember that Dr. Seuss book I was reading? Three fish in a tree? Fish in a tree? How can that be? Like, actually, that's way less preposterous than what the federal government and the AFT is doing right now, in my opinion. So there you go. They published this to the Federal Register. And look, all of this that they published is completely repugnant to the Constitution. And if you look at Marbury v. Madison, early on Supreme Court case, right at the founding of this country in the Supreme Court, said all laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. So when I say it's my opinion that all of this is illegal and unconstitutional, no, it's actually not just my opinion. This is the opinion of, what, hundreds of millions of Americans? Especially if you add up all of our forefathers. It's the opinion of the United States Supreme Court in Marbury v. Madison. It's the opinion of, you could say, Thomas Jefferson. You could say the Founding Fathers and the Second Amendment that says shall not be infringed. But here's where we are right now. So the fact that they've completely changed the date that's in here, it makes me wonder, and I don't know if you guys have wondered about this, but let me just state the obvious question that I have. These proposed rules, as draconian as they are, since they're completely reneging on what they published in the Federal Register, is this even anything like it's going to be when it comes out? This ban on ghost guns, they call it. They call it definition of frame or receiver and identification of firearms. It's actually called so many things you can't even keep track of it because, like I said, there's a lot more to it. So as arduous as this is and hard it is to sift through all this stuff, I don't know. Do you want to believe people that this is what's messed up? They're going to put, this is 76 pages, I believe, just this part of it. And I'm not going to read through all this tonight. Don't worry, guys. It's not going to be that boring of a stream. But I just wanted to print it just so you could see, like, you know, the amount of papers. You know what I'm saying? You'll see these omnibus bills when Congress passes them. And I've seen Rand Paul do videos in the past where he sees it. He has like a line of his senatorial aides walking in with the 5,000 count, you know, ream of paper boxes, carrying them in. And by the time they're done, there's this big pallet. Have you guys ever seen those little videos? It's a pallet. And they're like, yeah, this is this omnibus bill that was presented to the United States Senate at 10 a.m. and they have to vote on it by noon. That's the country we're living in right now. And look, this concept of this idea I've had for a while now. And it's hard for me to completely put it into words, but I watched the Glenn Beck video the other day. I don't watch Glenn Beck every day, and I do like a lot of the stuff he says, but I'm not like a huge fanboy or anything like that. But I've been trying to figure out a lot of this. He was talking about like Russia and Ukraine, but what he was talking about has to do with a lot of this, and I'm paraphrasing heavily, but what he said kind of really put it into a concise little box for me. Here's the problem right now, I think, with a lot of Americans right now, is the fact that we are still trying to rationalize things as America. We look at the founding documents. We look at how things were maybe early in our life, how it was in our parents' lifetime. Maybe in some cases, we just look at things as tyrannical as it was just 3 years ago. A lot of us might still like to look through life through a lens of how maybe life was 3 years ago. Because let's face it, in the last 2 years, we've changed a ton. We've changed more in 2 years than some people say we changed in 200 years with many, many things. And you guys know this. They called it the plague. They called it many things. We still can't even talk about it much today, but a lot's changed lately. And the problem might be that we're still kind of looking through things with this old lens. But here's what I think the problem with that is whatever we thought America was, and maybe it never was. Maybe it used to be. See, there's no yes or no answer. It's a spectrum. Things have been slowly but surely degrading for a long time. You get really, really confused when you look at it. You're like, but in America, this can't happen. But the Constitution says this. But the court said that. And Congress makes law. And the Supreme Court decides on the constitutionality of the law. And look, guys, we should still look at it that way because the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. But just step back and think about what's truly going on here. This isn't the country that we're living in anymore. I don't really know what country we're living in. I don't even know what to quite call it, but it's not really that at all anymore. We literally have the AFT, a bureaucracy that works for the executive branch under law enforcement. They're supposed to execute the law. They are now literally changing definitions of law, and that's literally what they're saying in here. We are going to amend this law to now say this, and then they have a powwow after we put public comments in, and then they judge it, judiciary branch, and they decide whether this rule is constitutional or not, and then they kick in as law enforcement and come in and then seize things, and I hope your dog's in order. Your children. Do you guys remember Ruby Ridge and Waco? I mean, we know what these guys can do and what they've done before. That's actually the world we're living in right now. And I think it's important to just realize that. Now, once you can realize that like, no, we're not actually living in the United States of America as it was declared independent of Great Britain. We're not following the law of the land. At least the government's not whatsoever, especially when it comes to stuff like this. Once you realize that, and Glenn Beck was kind of talking along those lines, I'm like, you know what? He's right. However, this is my take on it. Once you realize that, it's a lot easier to actually start to understand what's going on. And you have to understand that there is a problem, first of all, before you can then go through and identify what the problem is, right? And then once you identify what the problem is, you can start coming up with strategies and solutions to try to solve that problem, exterminate the problem. And this goes for all kinds of problems you could have in your life, right? Yeah, the government's not the answer. The government is the problem with this right now. They're literally the problem. And in my opinion, none of this is going to make anybody safer, but they're doing all of this under the guise of safety and security, right? Yeah. You guys remember Ben Franklin? Those who would give up an essential liberty for a little bit of perceived safety will actually wind up with neither, and they're going to reap what they sow because they don't even deserve either. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said. So that's what's actually going on here. Now, don't take me the wrong way. Look, guys, I have a lot of hope. You guys offer me a lot of hope. I haven't just swallowed a bunch of black pills no, guys, I'm trying to figure out a way through all this. I know a lot of you guys are too. We still need to cling to all these ideals because that's what a government is: of the people, by the people, for the people, to the consent of the governed. And I think the problem that we're in right now is just too many darn people are consenting. Literally. Now they might say online they're not consenting this and this and that. So yes, we still do need to look at these founding documents because I believe they're very beautifully worded. And I think there's lots and lots of wisdom in the founding documents. And I still believe that the Constitution is the law of the land. I believe all that. But once you realize the actual reality you're in right now, it just kind of makes a little bit more sense. And it kind of sucks to think of that when you're like, dude, the ATF, just think about it. They're literally writing things to go into law. That's what I'm literally reading here. That's the legislative branch. All right. They're the full force and effect of law. They're the boots, the jack boots on the ground. Okay, executive branch. And then they're deciding whether their rule is constitutional or not to put forth. That's the judiciary. Now, hold on a minute. Do you remember when this country was founded? I talk about this every week for a reason because we need not forget these things. Once we forget these things, trust me, we're going to be even worse off. Ben Franklin was asked by a woman, what do we have, sir, a monarchy or a republic? And he said a republic if you can keep it. Well, we actually have to look at the reverse of that. If you can keep it, we're going to have a constitutional republic. We'll have 3 separate branches of government. We'll have a government that can only exist by the consent of the people. I think that's fair enough, paraphrasing what he's saying. But sometimes you need to look at the opposite of what somebody says. If you can keep it, meaning if you don't keep it, what's going to happen? And I think that's what we're seeing right now with AFT, the former vice president. He calls him the AFT. And in my opinion, again, this is all just my opinion on here. Like I said, I'm certainly no Thomas Jefferson and couldn't afford to go to law school and probably wouldn't want to even if I could. But it looks like we have a branch that is acting as all 3 forms of government in one. And when one branch of government or one entity goes through all of this, they act as the judiciary, right? They're the judge and the jury. They're the law enforcement, and they're the one writing the law. Well, I think we actually have a word that defines that, and that would be a monarchy. It's kind of crazy if you really think about it. So, in my opinion, a lot of what this is actually one of the very things that we fought off to form this country. Have you guys ever thought about it that way? That's my opinion. And I know I'm not the only one that's thinking about these things. I'm going to get into a little bit about these rules, guys. I am. And I'm going to read some of the stuff because there is, I guess, a little bit of a ray of light. United States senators wrote a letter today calling the ATF out. So United States senators are aware. The United States representatives have been writing letters on these things. So they're definitely aware. And look, guys, here's the thing. I don't know. I don't know where the line in the sand is. I don't even really know what that word even means anymore. And it's weird. You spend a lot of time online. I get to meet tons of great people doing this channel. I'm really lucky to get to meet all you guys. But I learn a lot of things, and I learn like to definitely be encouraged. Like there's like a lot of awesome patriots in this country still, like right now. And like that's really, really encouraging. There's other things that aren't so encouraging. I've read thousands of comments, and I have no idea where the line in the sand is. And in fact, like so much to that extent, I don't even know if there is a line in the sand. I don't know. And yes, the founding fathers took arms against the government because they thought they were tyrannical, and that's the first thing off of everybody's mouth. But they also did do things like write letters to the King of England. They did write letters to Parliament. They did hold protests. And that's why these things are enshrined in the First Amendment. Your natural rights to peacefully protest, right? Your natural rights to write your government for a redress of grievance. So, look, there's certain times for certain things. There's times for peace. There's times for war. That's talked about in the Bible. That's talked about in founding documents. I think you guys are definitely generally familiar with what I'm talking about. But I think I see a lot of people online conflating the two, saying, well, hold on a minute. We have to go right to the musket, right to the sword. And I'm not saying you're wrong because I don't have the answers. You might be. I'm not calling for that, but you might be right. I just don't know. But just remember, the founding fathers, these were some tough dudes. The original militia, the people's militia, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. They also did write letters. They also did get a hold of their senators. So that's a very, very valid, thing to do as a United States citizen. And it's your right to do that. And that right is enshrined and protected right within the First Amendment to do all that. So yes, there's times for different things. There's times for different measures. And all these things are on everybody's mind right now. Some people say we might be in World War III, looking at what's going on in Europe. I get it. People are thinking about all these things. However, I think it's a very American thing to write your government and let them know that, no, you do not have my consent. I do not consent to this. It's literally enshrined in the First Amendment. And I'm not saying that just writing letters is always enough. Maybe go visit your congressman. A lot of them do actually have coffee hours where you can actually walk up to them and verbally speak these things. But it's perfectly okay, and it's perfectly constitutionally protected to tell your government, no, this is overreach. The ATF does not have the power to write law. They don't have the power to do this. The Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. Tell them what Barbary v. Madison said. Use your own words. So I just want to kind of, look, I'm not telling you guys what to do, but I do kind of want to reject the notion out there that I've been seeing creep up a lot lately. And I don't mean a lot like the majority of, just a lot, within the gun community, that I'm done writing my congressman. I'm done talking. I'm done doing anything. Well, you can do that if you want. And that's your right to do nothing. And just like the ostrich will stick its head on the sand and it'll try to disguise itself as a bush, so that the predatory animal won't get a hold of it. And you can do that. But you can also still write your senator, call your representative. And that's actually kind of sort of like how the country was founded. Go look it up. We like to read about the shot heard around the world, Lexington and Concord Bridge. Okay. And that's very, very important too. I'm not undermining that, but there were many attempts at letters, many attempts at things like that. And I can guarantee you those United States congressmen, they didn't find out about all the stuff going with the almost 1 billion firearms in the registry. They didn't find that out on their own. They found that out because of you. I can guarantee you these 20 senators that wrote the letter today, They didn't find that out on their own. They found out because of you. You know what I'm saying? So you guys do you. I just get a little frustrated once in a while. I'm just giving you guys my perspective on it. When some people within, we call it the gun community, the whatever. Look, there's many, many types of people that own guns. Trust me. It's not fair just to say there's just one singular community. No, there's tons of people that think many ways that own guns. But I've talked about that before, that are getting mad at people saying, well, hold on a minute. It's a problem if you write your senator. Well, how's that a problem? It's literally written in the First Amendment that they would protect your right to address your government with a redress of grievance, to peaceably assemble, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. So you guys do you, but I still think it's never just one thing, but that's part of the bigger picture of letting the government know what the heck's going on, okay? And they also set up a system to vote. I saw Vanessa Kitty say out of the corner of my eye. Yeah, that's one of the core fundamental principles of this representative constitutional republic that we have. I totally get it. And Rick Nieper just said, my calls fall on deaf ears. My representation stinks. Oh, I totally get that. But there's a lot of other methods of government you can go through. There's called, like, you can literally start off at the precinct delegate. You can go through, and I know there's a lot of swamp with all this. You can go through all the local levels, right up the chain of command. And that's how a lot of changes happen in this country. Not from bureaucrats and not from suits and ties in Washington, but from the American people, literally. The American people saying, no, that's it. We're going to have a referendum on this. And we've had referendums on certain things in this country that have drastically changed in the last 100 years. And I think, the main big one that started all of it, the National Firearms Act. There were other gun control laws before that, but we've had this going on for, almost 100 years now, and I think it's time for a referendum on that. To say, no, we do not consent. We're going over the heads of all of the politicians, and the American people are speaking on this. And trust me, these politicians, they want power. They do. Well, we need to start using that to our advantage, I guess. Let them know you do not have our consent. And if there's nobody that's running for office in your area that's going to cut the mustard, you should probably run yourself. I do want to encourage you guys of that. I got a couple super chats I want to check real quick here. A couple other things I wanted to let you guys know about, and then I'm going to kind of sift through this a little bit, okay? Now, I do want to tell you guys this. I'm not going to go through every last word of this, okay, tonight. I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to talk about this more and more as it gets closer. And I do have a couple guests that I'm trying to line up that I want to have come on and that can talk about some more specific aspects of this. But I think the whole frame of mind that America's in right now probably matters more. And what we, the people, are going to do about all this crap probably actually matters more than just what the words are written in here. Because trust me, the words in here is like, you're screwed as much as possible. And even if you understand all the words in here, we can do anything we want for any reason at any time. I mean, there's fine print in here too. So just keep in mind what my intent and goal is tonight. Christopher Gerard with a very generous super sticker. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you, dude. Let me come over here and take, that's a nice picture, man. What are you out there in a field? Lovely wife. Nice picture, man. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, dude. Lots of good people in here tonight, by the way. Let me see what he sent me. StreamYard, there's a little thing with it where they won't actually show me what the actual super sticker itself is. And he sent me the tactical hippo opening up a money chest. Well, I really appreciate it, guys. I'm still trying to get my car ready to go down to South Carolina for a trip this week where I'm going to bring back content, info, hang out with some good people for all of you. And it does help right now. So thanks so much, man. Mike McClune with the super sticker says, or a channel member says, Hugo, making it rain. Yeah, Mike McClune, he's a regular around here. Huge supporter of the channel. That tactical hippo you see, he actually has a name. His name's Hugo. Just ask Mike. TJ Jama with the super chat. How's it going, man? What's up, dude? He says they're redefining the words well-regulated militia by regulating us to death. I know. That's why I literally gave that Dr. Seuss analogy. Like, I read the book last week when I said I'm not going to be canceled, guys. Three fish in a tree? Fish in a tree? How can that be? Executive? Legislative? Judicial? How can that be? I hear you, man. I do. And we talked about Look, they'll literally try to convince us soon that what is down is up and up is down. And before you know it, you're just going to be on some super fast, high-speed merry-go-round. Does that sound like fun? Get on the government merry-go-round. Is anyone looking forward to that? Somebody just said they are. You want? Oh, they were just joking. No, I don't think so. I don't think anyone's looking to get on the government merry-go-round right now. Clover Tack, what's happening, dude, with the super chat? Thanks, man. I appreciate you, dude. He's been a good friend of the channel, guys, in many ways. I don't just mean the super chats, although they're much appreciated. He's been a true friend of the channel in many ways, and of myself. So thanks, man. He says, I love the AT. Hold on a minute. Hold on. I renounce. We're no longer friends. I almost called him friend. Nah, he's still my friend. Let's see what he says here. He says, I love the ATF. Whew. Somebody's going to take that as a soundbite. I love the ATF. Hold on. I love the ATF. You guys should seriously get off their backs already. All they want to do is take your guns. What's the big deal? And that's clearly a very sarcastic and ironic message, but there's actually a lot of truth in that. And we can actually get a lot of truth out through humor. So thanks, man. Somebody better not get that soundbite off me. They're just going to take a little clip. I love the ATF, and it'll just be me. But thanks for the laugh, Clover. And think about what he just said. All they want to do is just take all their guns. Somebody seriously asked me this not that long ago. They're like, well, hold on a minute. They said, it's just a few more rules and regulations. You know, I'm not necessarily for it, but what do we have to lose? I'm like, come on, man. Are you kidding me? Remember that? Come on, man. Corn Pop was a bad dude. Do you remember Brandon? He was a bad dude and ran with some bad boys. But this person did that to me. They go, come on, man. It's just frames and receivers. Like, who wants a ghost gun anyways? What do we have to lose? I said, what do we have to lose? Oh, geez, let me think about it. Everything? Yeah, you can actually lose everything. As bad as people think things can get, they can actually get worse. William Barbahan with the super chat 223. I'm guessing maybe he's an AR guy. Here's a 223 for you, man. I don't know if you're a steel case guy, but I don't have any brass case handy. So thanks for the super chat. He says constitutional carry, Governor Holcomb. He put his phone number out there. So check that out, guys. Governor Holcomb. What state is Governor Holcomb in? I think some of you guys get that. Hey, call him up. Tell him your opinion on it. Now, look, I don't know exactly what the bill is, this and that, but I will tell you guys this, and this is what I was saying earlier. You have the right, endowed by your creator, to talk to your government. You have the right to praise them if you want. You know, you could do that. Does anyone want to praise their government right now? I don't think so, but you have the right. It's called redress of grievance. So if you want to call your governor, tell him what's on your mind, call your governor. We should be talking to everybody on all local levels, all the way up from, again, guys, precinct delegate, county commissioner, city hall. You know what I'm saying? Indiana, Gort said, thank you. Yeah, call him up. Tell him what's on your mind. So there you guys go. Literally, some people are going to have different views on, I support this, I don't support that. Okay, great. But there you go. You guys want to talk to the Governor Holcomb out of Indiana. For some reason, I was about to say, is that Mike Pence? Did he go back? What do you guys think? Could Mike Pence even get elected dog catcher right now in Indiana? Maybe. I don't think so, though. I don't think he could even get elected dog catcher for whatever reason. Dang it. The one Mike Pence fan just unsub from the channel. They'll be back, though. That's how that works. They'll be back. Don't worry about it. They'll be back. Guys, before I get into some of the stuff with these frames and receivers, I'm going to read a letter from Thomas Jefferson at a certain point. What do you guys want to hear about? Frames and receivers or Thomas Jefferson? I guess I'll do a bit of both. But I have some links down there in the description. So go down to the bottom of the description. There is all of this, if you guys want to read it. There's also the letter from the 20 senators in there that you guys can read. And there's also, you guys ever heard of this letter? I put a link to this down there in the description too. It's called The Tree of Liberty, the famous. This is an interesting letter that explains a lot, I think, of what's going on right now. I'm going to read this. It's been a couple months. And there's also a link down there for BWE Firearms. Okay, and I want to talk about this real quick because this sucks, man. And I hate bad news, but I just want to offer him some encouragement. They call him the Hoff, Richard Hoffman. I don't know him personally outside of YouTube, but I've watched him on YouTube quite a bit, hanging on a lot of my friends' streams, done a lot of his own videos. And he's the Uzi guy, like literally like the Uzi guy in the United States. Like if you have an Uzi and it needs repaired, whatever, he's your guy, right? As you guys maybe know, and I've talked about this, he's been struggling with stage 4 cancer for quite some time. And he's like a really, really tough dude. And a lot of people online have been offering him encouragement. Man, you can't even believe this stuff, but unfortunately it's true. So his wife, who's been really there for him because as his health has been ailing and he's needed a lot of help with things, she was like his rock, like, his strength times that he was too physically weak to do things, and both morally and physical support. Literally recently, like last week, earlier this week, right out of the blue, she passed away. So not only has the man been struggling and fighting, and he's fighting hard, guys. He's really, really fighting hard. Now he's trying to completely run a small business totally by himself. It's called stage 4 cancer, guys. It's not good, but he's fighting a good fight, and he's doing a really good job, man. He's doing good. He's really doing good. But with that, but he just lost his wife. So I'm going to leave a link to a video he put out. Okay, there's multiple ways you can help him. Just your support, your kind words, praying for him, giving him good vibes if you're not the religious type. You guys know what you do. Just do it with good intentions and it'll work out. You know what I'm saying? There's also going to be a link in his video that I linked to down there where he has a PayPal if people just want to help him out, because I don't know how he's going to be able to pay his bills right now. So I just wanted to talk about that. I don't like talking about this stuff because it's like, but look, it's just, it is what it is. And it totally sucks. And I hate everything to do with it. But the man's had a really, really rough way and he just lost his wife. So if you guys could just reach out to him however possible. If there's somebody who's got a couple extra bucks, he could probably use some help there. He could probably use some words of encouragement. He could probably use a prayer. You know what I'm saying, right? So that link is also down in the description of this video. I can post it in the pinned comment, but we don't get to post comments on streams till they're over. So just wanted to talk about him, and I doubt he's watching this video right now, but if he were, or anyone that knows him is, God bless you, man. You know what I'm saying? But he's a tough dude. He's a tough dude. He's been fighting like hell, and there you go. Can you imagine that you're fighting stage 4 cancer with your wife right at your side? I don't want to misquote him, but basically to paraphrase him, he would have never made it through without his wife. And then she literally just drops over dead with no notice whatsoever. Life's just not fair sometimes. So I wanted to talk about that and give you guys the link to his video down there. You know what I'm saying? All right. I wanted to talk about it, but I don't like this kind of stuff. It just sucks, man. All right. Now here's something else I don't like. This is called Definition of Frame and Receiver. They put it in the Federal Register. It was going to come out in June. Now it's coming out in April. There was supposed to be 90 days to comply. Now there's going to be 60. AKA, it's coming. And it's coming fast, just like everything right now. Coming in fast, coming in hard. And I'm going to grab this real quick. Let me see here. Here's the problem. I got all these stacks of papers here. You know what? Stacks of paper. We really only have like a couple sentences that nullify all this. Let's see here. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Necessary. You notice that part? Right? Necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It's like 2 lines, depending on your typeset, whether it's 1 or 2 lines on a sheet of paper. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. I like the sound of that, don't you? The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And now we have all this. I think this topic I'm talking about right now is the most important of all of this, guys. Yes, there's the verbiage. There's the lawyers that are going to go through this. There's the lawsuits. I'll get into it a little bit. But the concept that's literally un-American is shall not be infringed, and somehow we have all this. You guys know what I'm saying? And now we have all this. Here's the summary. Here's the summary of this. This is called Rule 2021R-05. There was a public comment period. That's expired now. And then now it goes into this. And then there's going to be a final rule put out in April. Then after 60 days, I know you guys will take care. Just take care of your dog. You know what I'm saying? Literally. And I'm not even being sarcastic. Like, literally, a dog can be a man's best friend. After 60 days, you know what I'm saying? Make sure your dog's in good order. Make sure your children are in good order. Okay. ATF's proposed rule, definition of frame or receiver and identification of firearms would provide a new definition for firearm frame or receiver and frame or receiver. Yeah, that's what it says. Amend the definition of. This is what I was talking about. This is where these people think they can write laws. Amend the definition of. It's called Chevron deference, guys. It's called the bump stock case. They're using Chevron deference now to say that if there's any ambiguity at all in their opinion, not in your opinion, because we can all understand this stuff very easy. It says shall not be infringed. But hold on. If there's any ambiguity in, let's say, the National Firearms Act, the Gun Control Act of 1968, okay? Even though these definitions, in my opinion, and most normal people's opinion, look, these people, they're not normal. Just remember that. They're not normal. You're the normal one. You can understand it. Everyone can understand it. But if they claim there's any ambiguity at all, they rely on this Supreme Court precedent. That was the United States Department of Natural Resources v. Chevron. Now, that was a civil case. That was to do with regulatory type statutory law. Regulations like the Department of Natural Resources saying you can't drill from oil within what's near a wetland. I'm giving you guys just an example off the top of my head, but it's just follow me here. It'll make sense. Near a wetland. And they say, well, what does near mean? They didn't say near. Well, then they could come in and the Department of Natural Resources, according to this Chevron deference, could come in and say, well, we hereby say that since near isn't like, is near an inch, is it 100 foot? Is it 300 foot? Is it 10 miles? Is it 30 miles? They can come in and say, well, we now define near to mean 300 foot. Now, notice this would be regulatory type things that have to do with, in this case, it was to do with the Department of Natural Resources and the Chevron Oil Company. And that wasn't the exact facts of the case. I just don't want to get into that case because it could take 8 hours any further than I need to, okay? It was never intended to. And the court never said it was supposed to be for anything that was of criminal ramifications. Now, keep in mind, violations of the National Firearms Act and Gun Control Act, that's a 10-year felony, okay? Prison, fines. Now, they're taking this Chevron deference when Trump said, I don't like the bump stocks, get them gone. What Trump did there, and I said it on this channel then, I'm not just making this up right now, guys. Go back and check this. It's on the record on this channel. Probably only 100 people watch those videos, but they're there. And I said, guys, if this bump stock ban goes through, like I voted for Trump too, guys, you know, I get it. But it doesn't matter if you voted for him, if you like him, we need to reject this because this is going to set the stage where this might be all Trump does. It might not be either, you know, but it might be what all Trump does. That's what I said back then. But just wait till a truly anti-gunner. I know that's like hyperbole. I get it. The fact that Trump even did one thing, let alone several, that's anti-gun too. But I'm not trying to get in the weeds on that. I'm just going back to what I was saying back then. If Trump was your guy, if he's still your guy, that was a huge problem back then. So what if it opens the door for a next administration? Maybe an administration of a former vice president. And this is where people always ask me this question, to AE to you, why do you call him the former vice president? And I say, well, first of all, let's go, Brandon. The most popular and the most fortified of all time, according to Time Magazine, NewsGuard certified source, Associated Press. Am I compliant yet, Susan? According to Time Magazine, the most fortified of all time, right? Why do I call him the former vice president? Well, that's the easiest thing I'm going to say all night. Because he is the former vice president. Okay, with that said, what about if some president or former vice president comes in and just wants to literally take up with the bump stock precedent, which is dovetailed off the Chevron deference, which was Trump saying, just get him gone. And you like bump stocks, get him gone, out, get him out, I don't like. Literally, do you guys remember that? I don't like. And they were gone. He says, I don't like bump stocks. Write it up, get it done. And they did. And they relied on the United States v. Chevron Supreme Court precedent. And now guess what the AFT is doing? Relying on that same deference precedent. And they're saying, nope, we don't believe that all of these unconstitutional gun control laws are specific enough. So now we're going to reinterpret them. And that's what they're telling you right here. This is very important. Amend the definition of firearm to clarify when a firearm parts kit is considered a firearm. And I don't do this very much, guys, but I'm going to do it. For all the people that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, last year, yesterday, right now, and tomorrow say, who cares about the bump stock? It's just a piece of plastic. Who cares? Nobody likes those. They waste ammo. Okay? You were entitled to that opinion, but you were wrong because you guys couldn't see the forest through the trees. And I think a lot of you guys have friends that were like this. And some people have changed over and they're like, dude, I get it, man. And I'm not rubbing it into you guys. But I told you so. I'm not rubbing it in, but at the same time, I told you all. I said, this bump stock precedent is literally going to become such a slippery slope. It could completely and utterly destroy the Second Amendment and make it where over half the country's felons instantly. And now we have the brace ban. The braces, right? I talked about it last time. It's called Future Felons of America, where they say up to 70, maybe even 90 million people could become felons over these overnight this summer. And now this rule is coming through where who knows how many more people will be. By the way, it doesn't say the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed unless you're a felon. It actually doesn't say that at all. I want to make that clear too. That right belongs to everybody, whether you're a felon or not, by the way. So that's what's going on. The bump stock ban. Here we are. Now this willy-nilly, they're amending laws, they're writing laws, they're judging the laws, they're enforcing the laws. All right, amend a definition of firearm to clarify when a firearms parts kit is considered a firearm, and gunsmith to clarify the meaning of that term and explain that gunsmiths may be licensed solely to mark firearms for unlicensed persons. Marking it, that's called the 4473. That's called the registry. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I just saw the corner of my eye. Forced reset triggers too, of course. Of course that's part of all this. Guys, look. It's called a Writ of Certiorari. GOA, okay? GOA and their legal team has filed a Writ of Certiorari, basically telling the Supreme Court, this is ripe. It's in your jurisdiction. You all need to act on it. The bump stock case is not over yet, okay? They've appealed to the Supreme Court, and this just happened last week. Just remember that. It literally just happened last week. Okay? Really, what's going on is we need to defeat all this stuff somehow, but we need to defeat the bump stock precedent, which is a dovetail of the Chevron precedent, Chevron deference. Because they're actually not even truly making a Second Amendment claim in their lawsuit. The GOA, the essence of their lawsuit is they're attacking Chevron deference. So I just wanted to give you guys the background story. That's why bump stocks definitely mattered back then. And they still matter now. A lot. Like, a lot. And by the way, I like bump stocks too. Just personally, I think they're awesome and a very fine item. All right. Provide definitions for complete weapon, complete muffler, or silencer device. Yeah, the Form 1s, where they're basically like, oh, now we need you guys to put out all of the information to incriminate yourself. You guys heard about this recently? And then also give us all the sources of all the places you bought it from? Come on. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? That's a whole nother rabbit hole. I'll address it briefly in a minute here. Privately made firearm, PMF, this is what they call ghost gun. It's called, of course you have the right to build your own firearm. We always have, before America was even America. You know what I'm saying? All right, ruddily. And these are all in quotes, guys. That's why I'm reading it. You know, ruddily. They're, look, provide definitions for. This is why I said this is all my opinion. I know there's all these semantical arguments, but this is them writing laws, in my opinion. Provide a definition for, let's see here. of importers or manufacturer's serial number, provide a deadline for marking firearms manufactured, clarify marking requirements for firearm mufflers and silencers. I thought we have the right to be secure in our effects and in our papers. I don't think they care about that either. Amend the format for records / manufacturer acquisition and disposition by manufacturers and importers, and amend the time period records must be retained at the licensed premises. We talked about that before on this channel. That's that billion entries registry, billion firearms registry. It's almost a billion. That's what that is. See, right now, they have to retain, your FFL has to retain records of all the sales for 20 years. But if they go out of business, they can discard them, right? 20 years, they're getting rid of the 20-year thing. They want your FFL to have to keep all records of every sale into perpetuity. And then go back and watch my video if you're new here. I explain this very thoroughly. Then they're going to go back in and scan them. It's called OCR, optical character recognition. I might be off on that, but I think that's what it means. It basically scans a piece of paper, puts it into a searchable file. Now, the AFT's played semantics and said it's not a database. It's not a registry. It's just a searchable file that upon certain commands will give us quantitative results based on our query. But that's not a database or a registry. Yeah. You guys ever heard this saying, truth is treason in the empire of lies? Just keep that in mind. All right. Proposed new definition of a firearm, frame or receiver. And this is just the summary, guys. This document's thick. I'm going to show you a couple pictures from it, but it's literally like crazy. How are you guys doing out there tonight? I see Ron Wayne's in the house, channel member. Thanks for your support, man. Joe Pachetti, channel member. Thanks, dude. I'm just saying hi to a couple of the channel members here because it puts your name in green so I can see it real easy. We've got Gort in the house. We've got Scott Plagman. Awesome, man. Mike McClune. And probably 100 other people that I missed. But nice to see you guys. And thanks for the super chat, Ron Wayne, and for being a channel member. Support BWE Firearms. Look at his avatar, guys. I just saw that, man. He's usually got a picture of John Wayne, right? That's cool, man. Support BWE Firearms. Life sucks, guys, but he's a bad dude. Richard Hoffman, the Hoff. Yeah, let's help him out the best we can, guys. He's going to be tough. Thanks for all you do, 2A Edu. Thumbs up, people. Thumbs up to all you guys for sure, man. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it, man. Okay, under the proposed rule, frame or receiver is any externally visible housing or holding structure for one or more fire control components. Think about this. Any externally visible housing or holding structure. Start thinking about popular firearms like a Glock, maybe a Kalash, maybe that Armalite rifle, because that's what it stands for. They'll tell you it stands for assault rifle. The AR, the Armalite rifle, Eugene Stoner's design. Think about these. Just think about these. Think about the Taurus G2C. All right. A fire control component is one necessary for the firearm to initiate, complete, or continue the firing sequence, including, but not limited to. Why are we even reading the rest of this? This is how frustrating this gets. Should I just stop reading this? Because it doesn't even matter what it says next. Listen to what I just said. Including, but not limited to. So that means we can parse all this down, and I already know what some of you are thinking. Probably not too many people that watch my channel. I get it. You guys are some of the smartest people I've ever met. That's why I'm always eager to come back on and get encouraged by you guys. But someone's saying, well, hold on. If I calculate, guys are still emailing me. Here's my worksheet for the pistol brace. If I calculate the worksheet enough, I'll be able to. No problem, Texas Roots. He says, thanks for the True Shot discount. It's already paid off. If you don't know what he's talking about, go over to Locals, guys. Susan Wiki and all of your awesome staff. Dude, I know there's people that work for YouTube that love this channel. They've actually told me, like, on the down low. The dude's like, I'm writing from a VPN to let you know that, like, I'm assigned to your moderation team, but I like you. But anyways, with all that said, even though we like each other, go over to Locals. It's another site. I can't promote places that sell guns or ammo here, but I do on Locals. And you guys want to see a crazy 9mm deal? Go over there right now, or when we're done. It's one of the top couple posts. I don't think you guys will be disappointed. But with that said, glad to help out, Texas Roots. Okay, so we'll read through this. We'll read through this. You guys want some content. But no, there's people still trying to find the loophole. Dude, it's not a loophole. It's called shall not be infringed. There shouldn't be any loopholes. They're still filling out the brace worksheet. So, all right, I'll read what they're saying here for all of you that are going to try to find ways to beat it. And I get it. It's just human nature. I'm being partially sarcastic right now. Okay, including but not limited to, that's the key here, but not limited to any of the following: the hammer, the bolt carrier, the breech block, the cylinder, the trigger mechanism, firing pin, striker, or slide rails. Now, it's not just those components that they're talking about here. It says, under the proposed rule, a frame or receiver is any externally visible housing or holding structure for one or more of the following components. So think about your Glock slide for a minute. Not legal advice. I'm just having fun hanging out with friends right now. I'd love to have you all in the shop, but I can't. That's what this is. But just think about what this says, okay? It says, any external visible housing or holding structure for one or more of the following. So think about your Glock slide. What does that hold? Does it hold, including but not limited to, a hammer or a bolt carrier or a breech block? Cylinder, trigger mechanism, firing pin, or striker? Does that make your Glock slide a firearm? I don't know. Not a lawyer, but that's what I just heard them say. We're going to get into in a second where they show like literally slide rails in one of the pictures and say it doesn't even matter if it's pinned in or not. Even though it's pinned in, it's still readily, therefore unto hereby three fish in a tree. Remember that Dr. Seuss book? That's a firearm. We'll get into this. Any part falling within the new definition that is identified with a serial number must be presumed, absent an official determination by ATF or other reliable evidence to the contrary, to be a frame or receiver. So they're saying it is a frame or receiver unless you can provide evidence to prove that it's not. It's innocent until proven guilty? No, dude, that's the old America you remember, guys. Back to what I said earlier. You got to kind of set that aside to understand what's going on right now. You're guilty. Now prove your innocence. Any firearm part within the new definition that is identified with a serial number must be presumed, absent an official determination by the ATF or other reliable evidence to the contrary. So unless they do, right? Unless they agree that it's the contrary, is determined to be a frame or receiver. More than one externally visible part may house or hold a fire control component on a particular firearm, such as with a split or modular frame or receiver. Under these circumstances, ATF may determine whether a specific part or parts of the weapon is the frame or receiver, which may, look at all these vague words, this is for a reason, guys, which may include an internal frame or chassis, at least partially exposed to the exterior to allow identification. Think of your Taurus G3C, your Taurus GX4, your SIG P365. There's the polymer grip part that you hold on to, but they actually have internal parts, and there's a little window cut out or molded right out where you can see the serial number. That's what they're talking about. They get into it a lot deeper, guys. All these sources I'm reading from are down there in the description, just to let you guys know, down at the bottom there. Okay. The proposed rule maintains current classifications and marking requirements of firearms frames and receivers, except that licensed manufacturers and importers must mark on new designs or configurations either their name or recognized abbreviation and the city and state or recognized abbreviation, where they maintain their place of business, or their name or recognized abbreviation and their abbreviated FFL number on each part defined as a frame or receiver along with the serial number. Do you guys remember some of those old Century Arms imports, the billboard marking? You'd have this beautiful Walther P38 with all the correct markings, and then just boom, CAI, Georgia, Vermont, 9mm, new serial number, blah, blah, blah. 4 and 9,700 years ago. All right, I mean, yeah, like that would be on the side. Well, now they're making them add more stuff. FFL number? Now, keep in mind, this isn't on what you think a firearm is now. They're redefining what firearms are. Any part that houses all of these, like we said earlier, yeah, but here's the thing, though, not limited to. So basically anything is what. All right, let me keep reading here. Like, literally, this stuff goes in so much circles. If we tried to make sense of it, we'd never get through. And I'm just having fun hanging out with you guys tonight. I know I'm not doing a good job getting through it. I already know the most popular questions I'm going to get. Is there a grandfather clause? Let me just cut to the chase, guys. I think the philosophy behind this is the most important part, and that's what I'm kind of focusing on tonight. Kind of, yes. Kind of not. There are no yes and no answers. Kind of. But if it crosses an FFL, no. There's kind of a grandfather clause, but if the only thing you're worried about is the grandfather clause, you might want to look at being more of a solution provider, because we really need all of this to become null and void ASAP. I don't know exactly how to do it yet, but we need to figure out how. And some of you guys might have good ideas how we can do that. I don't know. All right. The proposed rule maintains current. Okay, we said that. The proposed rule includes examples of types and models, firearms, of types and models, firearms, per English, and identifies the frame or receiver. Most examples also include an illustration identifying the frame or receiver. It also explains when a partially completed, disassembled, or inoperable frame or receiver is considered a frame and receiver. That's where the ghost gun thing comes in. There it is. Bingo. Disassembled, inoperable, partially completed. They are now going to determine when those are going to be a firearm. And it's going to be drastically different than what you've known for forever. And explains that a destroyed frame or receiver is not considered a frame or receiver. Okay, but it's not that simple, because you can actually become a felon by improperly destroying your firearm. Mike McClune with the super sticker and a channel member and a local supporter. Thanks, man. I appreciate you, dude. Let me come over here and see which one it is. Is it Hugo the Hippo? I'm thinking maybe. Let me see here. Somebody said I had a troll. I don't know, man. I've never seen a troll on here before. Mateo will figure that out. I don't know. Have you guys ever seen a troll in this chat? I don't think so. I literally come back and look, guys, afterwards, and I see like totally awesome people there every week. People talk about it, but I don't think I've ever seen a troll in this chat. Maybe someday I will. Epic fail, he says. Ooh, that's a good one. Hugo the Hippo, epic fail. Dude, like totally epic fail. Thanks for all your generous support, Mike. I really appreciate you, man. Thank you. Okay, firearms parts kits. The proposed rule explains that when a partially complete frame or receiver parts kit has reached a stage of manufacture where it may be readily completed, assembled, or converted, or restored to a functional state, it is a frame or receiver that must be marked. And that's where it's crazy, because they say this where it could be readily completed, assembled, converted, or restored. What's readily mean? I would think it would mean you might have to go click, click. Look, it's all unconstitutional, all of it. But within the parameters of the current laws, click, click, pin, push, put a slide on. I mean, I don't know, 30 seconds, a minute, maybe 5 minutes. No, they're actually defining this as like many hours in a fully furnished machine shop. If it can be converted or readily converted, completed, restored within like hours, I think it's days actually. Maybe one of you guys remember this exact number. It's all on this document, guys. I can't remember it all. But they literally reference a fully like staffed and functional machine shop. And I think they say like 8 hours, like a full day. I know somebody in the chat's going to remember that little stat and help me out. I think definitely an AR bolt carrier could be a firearm. And said, yeah, look at what I said earlier. Is it externally visible? There might be a gray area there. A lot of people have a dust port cover on their AR, but a lot of times it's down. But there's a lot of lightweight uppers, right? Minimalistic uppers, cheap uppers. They're not all cheap. There's just many things people call them. There's many types of AR uppers, we'll just call them. By the way, the upper is going to be a firearm. That's pretty much a foregone conclusion, in my opinion. The bolt and carrier, that's actually visible from the outside. It does house at least a couple of these key elements. So in my opinion, from what I'm reading here, yes. I could see Bolton carriers being part of this. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but that is like literally kind of sort of what it said, right? So, yeah. The slide, the Mike H says, is my car a firearm? You know what? If it had a firing pin in it or part of a fire control device, maybe. I mean, literally, if they're sole discretion, it might be unless you can prove it's not and have them agree that it's not. You guys heard me read that part earlier, right? It's going to go through talking about gunsmiths. They're going to basically make it where, well, I'll read it real quick. Under the proposed rule, dealers, gunsmiths can mark firearms for the maker or owner of the privately made firearm and may be licensed to engage solely in that business. So they're going to have a new gunsmith type of FFL that just deals in serial numbers. Now, you know what happens when serial numbers go through an FFL, right? It's what's called a bound book that they have to keep. It's called a 4473. It's called they were just busted by the United States Congress, GOA. I reported on this, guys, with almost 1 billion items in the registry. Okay. Dealer gunsmiths are not authorized to perform, repair, modify, embellish, refurbish, or install parts and or on firearms, frames, receivers, and otherwise for or on behalf of a licensed importer or licensed manufacturer because those firearms are for sale or distribution. A license as a Type 7 manufacturer would be required. So they're saying as long as they're not making firearms, that they wouldn't have to have a manufacturer's license to just serialize them. So we're probably going to see a lot of people, I hate to say this, gun shop owners get on board with this because there's plenty of money to be made. And anytime there's something like this, we see people on both sides, don't we? We see gun shop owners that say this is totally BS, shall not comply. And then we'll see ones that are sitting there going, how many serial numbers can I put on for $100 a pop this week? And unfortunately, there's going to be gun dealers that are going to be behind this. And there's ones that are already behind this. You know, some people, money is a little bit more important than their natural rights. I get it. The love for money is the root of all evil. Can you guys tell me what book that came from? The love for money, it's the root of all evil. You guys ever heard that? Okay. Making requirements. Under the proposed rule, licensed manufacturers and importers must identify each part defined as a frame or receiver or specific parts determined by the ATF. They always put that in there, determined by them. Of each firearm they manufacture or import with a serial number, licensee's name or recognized abbreviation, where they maintain their place of business, followed by their FFL. They're kind of actually like being redundant. I read that was on the first page. I'm not reading the same thing twice, guys. They're just repeating themselves. Each part marked as a frame receiver must be identified as such. So we're going back into that same thing again. Licensees must mark complete weapons or frames or receivers disposed of separately, as the case may be, no later than 7 days following the date of completion of the active manufacturing process or prior to disposition, whichever sooner. Now they're talking about record keeping. You knew that was coming, right? It's called privacy, guys. You have the right to be secure in your effects and in your papers. This isn't only a Second Amendment issue. It's actually much more of a human rights issue than just that. This is your right to privacy. This is your right to not trust your government and to say, look, I'm innocent till proven guilty. I ain't doing nothing wrong with this firearm, nothing unlawful with it unless you can prove I am. Isn't that how it's supposed to work? But up and until then, it's none of your darn business what the heck I'm doing. Yeah, it's a very, very fundamental civil right. And one of the key things that defines America as America compared to other countries. But there's record keeping. Under the proposed rule, a privately made firearm, including a frame or receiver assembled or otherwise produced by a person other than licensed manufacturer and without a serial number or other identifying marks placed by a licensed manufacturer at the time the firearm was produced. The term does not include an NFA registered firearm or one made before October 22nd, 1968, unless remanufactured after that date. Licensee must properly mark each PMF acquired before the effective date of the rule within 60 days after the rule becomes final, or before the disposition, including a personal collection, whatever sooner. Properly marked previously acquired PMFs themselves or may arrange them to have another licensee mark the firearm on their behalf. PMFs currently in that inventory that a licensee chooses not to mark may also be destroyed or voluntarily turned into law enforcement within the 60 days. Now, what generally happens when the ATF says you can turn it in to be destroyed, or he was a good dog? It was. Make sure your dog's in order. I mean, I'm just being honest. What usually winds up happening, in my opinion, Susan, Ruby Ridge, Waco. Once the rule becomes final, and unless already marked by another licensee, properly mark each PMF within 7 days following the date of receipt or other acquisition, including from a personal collection, or before the date of disposition, including to a personal collection, whichever is sooner. They just keep talking about like personal collection, yeah, this is about you guys, just in case you didn't already know that. I think you guys knew that. Mark PMFs acquired after the rule becomes effective themselves or under their direct supervision by another licensee with the supervising licensee's information. Mark PMFs with the same serial number on each frame or receiver of a weapon that begins with the FFL's abbreviated license number, first 3 and last 5 digits, as a prefix followed by a hyphen on any privately made firearm as defined that the licensee acquired. Example, like look at this. They want to put all this on your gun, but just remember, a gun is anything that houses all of these 10 different parts. Yeah, you know your G-lock? It's called G-lock, right? G-L-O-C-K. You know that thing that sticks out that you pull on? We call it the booger hook. Just wait. I'm going to show you pictures in a minute. You tell me whether that's going to be a firearm or not. All right. Record PMFs in their acquisition and disposition records, whether or not kept overnight, and update their acquisition entries with information marked on PMFs. These become legal documents when you own an FFL. They're subject to audit by the ATF. In other words, these are books that they're keeping. Their acquisition and disposition records. This is stuff the government can, and in my opinion, does read. They scan it. It's called OCR. Do you remember that video? Over almost 1 billion records, most of them digitized. Licensees may refuse to accept PMFs or arrange for private individuals to have them marked by another licensee before accepting them, provided they are properly marked in accordance with this proposed rule. They're going to go through a lot of stuff the same way with silencers, or mufflers they call them. I'm going to try to get to this later in a little bit. If not, the link's down in the description. Records and acquisitions. Records of acquisition and disposition. Too many words that sound alike. Under the proposed rule, records of manufacture, importation, acquisition, and disposition by manufacturers and importers must be consolidated into one book similar to dealers, and the format containing the applicable columns is specified as part of the regulation. The proposed rule specifies required information for duplicate entries in licensees' acquisition and disposition books, so there are no open entries, i.e. books must be closed out. Now, this sounds kind of goofy, and this is just my opinion, but keep in mind, you think of a firearm right now, and you think, well, just the lower on my AR is the firearm. But if you look at what they're saying the new definition is, there could be, and I'm making this number up, 12 firearms within the gun. Like, it's the gun, but it could be 12 firearms. I think that's why they're being so meticulous about duplicate serial numbers, how you close it out, all of the serial numbers. Yeah. Your Polymer Wonder pistol could literally turn into, if you go by look, if it houses all these things, but then it says, or if it houses any other thing at artist's sole discretion at any time. So basically, if it houses anything, is what it literally says, and you can see it, it becomes a firearm. You could have multiple firearms that combine themselves to become the gun. Again, not very lawyerly speak on my behalf, but I think that kind of makes sense. You could have many firearms that are what we would call a gun. And they all have to have records in this certain meticulous way and a very complex, convoluted way that they all have to be marked. Now, when you get into the actual rule itself, they tell you, like, it must be of a certain size font. It must be etched a certain thickness and depth within. Like, there's a lot to this. You can't, it's not just at your discretion, like, oh, well, I'll just make my mark. You know, some people do that. That's my mark. No, like, it's really, really complicated when you read the true rule, how you truly have to mark these things. Now, just to make sure that there's no loopholes, look, I'm using that word in air quotes, loopholes. This is the records retention part, and this is also something very concerning. It doesn't appear to have anything to do with this, but if you look at the big picture, what's going on, all of this has to do with all of this. It's just a complete circle, just to make sure they can ensnare us in all this as much as possible. Under the proposed rule, all licensees must retain ATF forms 4473. You guys remember that one? It's called the 4473. What a beautiful form. And said nobody. Hopefully nobody. Did someone seriously just say that? No. Said nobody. The beautiful form said nobody. And acquisition and disposition records until the business or license activity is discontinued. Paper forms and records over 20 years of age may be stored in a separate warehouse, which is considered part of the licensed premises and subject to inspection. Paper acquisition and dispossession records stored separately are those that do not contain any open disposition entries and no dispositions recorded within 20 years. They used to be able to destroy them. Now they're saying, well, you can store it off site, but it better be accessible. Look at this. I want to get to that Thomas Jefferson letter. Let me show you guys some of the highlights of this. This is a real beauty here. Look at this. Come on. Just look at their use of fonts. I'm trying to read through this crap, guys, right? What is this? Star asterisk, star asterisk? I haven't seen this many stars in Red China. Red China, it's called. Look at this. Star. That looks like the Molot factory emblem. Hey, you guys as locals tomorrow night, remind me. I'm going to show you a Kalash mag, okay? That's way, way, way too prohibited to show on a YouTube stream. So don't worry, Susan. This is going to be on locals tomorrow night on another site. I'm going to show you guys a cool rare magazine that's Russian, Tula marked with this, like literally, this is the same font. Like Tula needs to sue these people for copyright, in my opinion. In my opinion, Susan. They literally stole the Tula Arsenal star. But I'll show you guys one that has the Tula Arsenal spine stamp on the side of the mag. And also has the Ukraine crest etched in it both. It's an interesting piece of history. And I'll share that with you guys if you want me to. But I can't do it here. So look at all this. Stars. Not stars and stripes. This is called, someone just said the socialist star. Yep. Naheem got it. The socialist star. You got it. You guys know what I'm saying, right? If there's anyone from Tula watching, sue the ATF and say, we want our commie star back. All right. So they go through some pictures here. I don't know. It's just little things that get on my nerves. I'm reading through all this crap. Commie star, commie star, I mean, look what this looks like from a distance. Would you guys read this crap for fun? I don't know. I've read this a couple times. All right. So they're going through saying, here's a hinged revolver, and here's the frame. All right. Hinged revolver, revolver. There you go. Look at this. This document's down in the description, guys. Bolt action rifle receiver. All right. Now we have a brake action, and it's showing lever action. There you go. Shout out to all the lever actions. Pump action. They're saying receiver, receiver, receiver. Now here's the Kalash. Receiver. I'm heading somewhere with this. All right. Semi-automatic. Frame. All right. Frame. Chassis. Frame. That looks like a SIG chassis at first glance. The GX4 is a chassis gun too. Looks a little different than that. I don't know. I think the Taurus GX4. Oh boy, do I even say this? Let's just say this. In my recent Q&A video, if I could only have 3 guns, the Taurus GX4 made that list. The SIG P365 did not. That'll only be enough for me to lose a couple subs, wording it that way. But no, that looks more like a SIG chassis to me. Now, Here's what messes with me. Semi-automatic utilizing removable components. Anyone that's ever built one of those G-locks or whatever you guys want to call them from Austria? No, I don't mind Glocks, guys. Look. Semi-automatic utilizing removable components. Look at that. Guys, that's your breech block. That's your frame rails. That's your trigger housing. Well, on a Glock, it's not technically called the trigger housing. That's in the rear. But look at that. That's your trigger. Like literally your trigger shoe. See that with the blade safety? They're calling both of them frames. Look at that. Frame. Frame. Arrow. Frame. There's a little bit of text that goes along with this. Let me go back to here. All right. And they're literally going through all these different guns. A Colt 1911, a Beretta, a Browning. Here's the kicker. But they ain't coming after my 1911, has said a lot of FUDs. But it ain't but my 1911. Right, A-Dubs? How's it going, A-Dubs? Nice to see you, man. Dude, you're totally right. You're smart. You guys get this. Look, I'm gonna read Thomas Jefferson's letter in a minute. It's so purposely vague. He said, on purpose, this is written so there's no chance of compliance with this BS. If you guys, look, I hope this isn't the case, but it might be. It might be. If you guys come back and read this comment section like on Sunday, you're going to see people saying, get to the point. We want to know if there's a grandfather clause. Get to the point. We just want to know. I'm like, guys, I'm just down here hanging out with my friends. That's for some people like that. Some people don't. I get questions every day. How can I specifically comply with this? I'm like, I don't give legal advice. But I don't know how you can specifically comply with any of this because they'll literally give you specifics. And trust me, guys, it says 1911 in here. I'll show you. Somebody's not going to believe me. Colt 1911, Beretta Browning, FN Hurstel, H&K, Ruger, Sig Sauer, Smith, Taurus. All right. They're all covered in here. I'll get one person saying, how do we finally take our darn country back? One of those for every 99 that say, but hold on semantics, I can technically, dude, you can technically do whatever you want. And then you know what they're going to do? They're going to exercise clause A, which is the preface to every subsection of subclause. And they're going to say, oh, you didn't read we take a holistic approach and we can, for any reason, at any time, at our sole discretion, without prior notice, because the sun set, we can do it. Because the sun went down, we can do it. Because the sky's blue, we can do it. Because the sky's black, we can do it. 3 fish in a tree? What an excellent reason for us to change the definitions. I get it. We're going to have to wait till the final rule comes out. People are going to want to comply. I understand why to a point. I don't understand why. I do understand why. Here's what I'm going to say. These are all very important decisions. You're all responsible for your own decisions. And I always say that. And that's what it means to be an American. You'll either reap the rewards or the consequences of your decisions. It literally all boils down to that. They're going to say, but 2A EDU, is there a grandfather clause? And if I were to say yes, all right, I'm fine with it. Whew. Oh, gosh, I'm fine with it. What happened to trying to make this place a better place for your children? You know what? If people were a lot less selfish and cared more about their country, and the promulgation of this experiment on self-governance, we probably wouldn't even have any of this crap right now. You know that? But invariably, people are going to say, but is there a grandfather clause? And I'm going to say, well, kind of, sort of. Whew. But does it affect my 1911? Yeah, maybe. But maybe not yours. Whew. All right, I'm good. Let me go back on and watch gun videos. I came for the politics and left for the guns, they'll say. Now I'm going to go back and watch. See. I left for the guns, but then I catch them in the comments on my gun videos the next day. They still come back. You know what I'm saying? But whatever. Look, guys, I'm going to go over this real quick here. Okay. So we have, these are their models. All right. Privately made firearms. There's a subcategory there. Meaning of marketing terms. These are all their definitions. This is where they now think they can write law. Here's exceptions, okay? Read this, guys. Everyone's going to be wanting to look at this. This is, where's the loophole, they'll come in and say. Where's the loophole, sir? Whew. There's a loophole. I'm good. All right, I'm good. Whew. Did you say you want to make it 27,999 gun control laws, but you're not going to take my 1911? Yes, sir. I'm good. I'm good. Don't worry about it. Do you guys see people like this? I meet people like this in real life all the time. All right. Exceptions. Destructive devices. Adoption of identifying markings. Firearm muffler, silencer parts. By the way, they had secret rulemaking that they had made behind everyone's back. Senators brought it to the forefront today. Firearms or muffler silencer parts transferred. What's this doing in here? We can't have a good ATF powwow without bringing up armor-piercing ammunition. Look at this. Armor-piercing ammunition. Marking of ammunition. I mean, they call this ghost guns, and then I'm like, what? Now there's a whole section on armor-piercing ammunition? Are you kidding me right now? Lots of stuff in here. Oh, there's a chart. Do you guys remember? Hold on. This is going to make somebody's day. I'm saving the best for last for all of you who braved it through. You guys are just here for the chat. I don't blame you. The chat's awesome. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Do you guys remember the Armbrace Worksheet? Somebody said, 2A EDU, do you think I passed the other day? I said, passed what? Did I pass? Would you give this an A or B or a C? I said, dude, come on, man. My daughter had a project. I got to give my wife more credit than me. I helped her on it for one evening. My wife helped her do it before they went to Disney World. It was called a cloud mobile, you know, a homework assignment. The clouds, you write about like the beginning, middle, and end of the story. It was called Mouse and the Motorcycle. Anybody out there know that book, Mouse and the Motorcycle? She submitted it to her teacher, and her teacher's going to give her a grade. Well, somebody came to you and said, 2A EDU, because I don't know if you guys knew this. I was a substitute teacher at one time, K through 12, taught swimming lessons, taught trumpet lessons. 2A EDU, would you please give me a grade? I said, on what? I cut grass for a living. I'm out of the teaching business. All right. And they gave me the brace worksheet. They're like, did I pass? And I'm like, dude, just get that thing out of my face. They're like, no, did I pass? So here you go. For all of you that like the worksheet, look at this. This is nice. Look at this. I was just starting to hate the AFT. This is nice. I like the look of this. Do you guys like this? Now, this is something I think I can get behind, because you know what? Just the fact that they have all of these nice columns, there's probably a loophole in here. Whew. I was starting to get black-pilled tonight, guys. I got black-pilled. I said it's all over, and then I said, but this just looks a lot like that brace worksheet. This is something I can definitely get behind. Man, there's so many zombies in this country, guys. It's not even funny, but it's all right, though. We can call it out. And look what I'm back to again. I can't even make this up. I'm literally genuinely laughing. We're back to the old Tula Star again. Anyone have a Tula SKS out there? Clash? Tokarev? Look at this. We're back to the... All right, I'm done reading this. I do like Tula stuff. I'll show you guys some cool Tula stuff on the stream tomorrow, but this is enough. Look at this. Enough's enough. Machine guns, destructive devices. Somebody just said, look at their new armor-piercing ammo definition. But here we go. Wow. Of all the fonts you can use on a computer, you have to use the Socialist Star? I better get off of here. You guys are going to see me. Jeez, you remember the president of Ukraine? I saw him on TV the other day, and he was doing the old, what do they call that? The salute? I better put this away. If I keep reading these communist stars, I might get indoctrinated. To each according to his work, each according to his need. We don't need no stinking paycheck. Bread and water rations are fine. Oh, look at here. I'm going to show you guys one more thing. You can't even make this up, but I'm going to encourage you guys with a little bit from the United States Senate, which was kind of cool. And I'm also going to read a letter from Thomas Jefferson. That's what we need to do to get in a good mood tonight. And I'm going to read something through some of your good chats. What do you think, DLED After Dark? Did you read through this? See, DLD After Dark, he's my friend, and Shout out to your channel, man. He's been out there fighting the good fight for a long time. But when I see this, what do you think? It's called DLD After Dark Show. See him in there? And he is my friend. He's a really good dude. Dude, seeing all these tooless stars, I want to get the heck off of YouTube so I can go over there and look at some AKs. But hold on a minute. Where did this go? This is something. What do you think, Dark? All right. No essay could be complete. Especially since I said earlier, guys, look, you just need to realize at a certain point, like, is this even America right now? But we need to take our country back, guys. Without none other than the Internal Revenue Code. Oh, IRS Revision Rule 62-169. Internal Revenue Code of 1954, USC. Of course, the IRS is behind all this. Because did you guys ever think any of this was truly about a machine gun? No, it's actually not about a machine gun. Did you guys ever think it was about the destructive device? No, it's actually not that either. Did you know it's not even that the crime that isn't actually just to do with, not legal advice, guys, remember this, but the crime isn't technically rooted in the machine gun itself. No, they'll actually throw you in the hole for 10 years and fine you hundreds of thousands of dollars for not paying a $200 tax. No, I'm being literal, though, on that. Like, this is all over a $200 tax. Or if it's in any other weapon, it's called an AOW, a $5 tax. Now, what world are we living in? Think about this. What country are we in? If you get a parking ticket and it's like $5, that's what an AOW is. Or if you got a speeding ticket, $200. What type of, you're $200 behind on whatever tax. You didn't buy your fishing license or you were late on it, whatever. 10 years in prison, $250,000 in fines for not paying a $200 tax? When you really think about it, and that's what all this amounts to, wow. Good night, Chris Plummer. Hopefully you haven't left yet. I just saw you to the corner of my eye. Good night, man. I always appreciate you being here. You're usually one of them that I read your chats afterwards and don't get a chance to say hi to you. So there we go. U.S. Internal Revenue Code. With that said, now that we brought the IRS into this, let's look at some other stuff here. All right, so they've been busted recently. The AFT, by actually the United States Senate. And I think this is from people calling and writing the Senate, right? I don't think that these guys really, they don't really care, but they do probably want your vote a little bit, right? And I know there's people right now, and I don't blame you guys saying, dude, does any of that even matter? I don't know. Here's what I can say. As far as, does your vote matter anymore? I'm on a site right now, and it's called YouTube. Hi, Susan WikiWiki. So according to Susan, according to Time Magazine, the Associated Press, and NewsGuard certified sources, the most popular, all right, look at that. Let's go, Brandon. The most popular, the former vice president, the most popular, but also I would note, the most fortified of all time. This is a very, very fortified individual, and shout out to Misty Wayne if she's in the chat, making these cool decals for the channel that I've sent a bunch to you guys. I think I have a couple more I've been sandbagging on, so I'll give some of those away soon too. Okay, so this is March 11th, 2022. It says, the most fortified of all time. Oh no, that's my YouTube disclaimer that somebody just said, well, hold on a minute. Doesn't fortified actually just mean it was more secure? No, go look at what the word fortified means. If you have your cold cereal, your Frosted Flakes, the flour they put in there, it starts off, with certain vitamins and minerals, and they strip all of it out, and then they fortify it with vitamins and minerals, right? Fortified Frosted Flakes. Well, what are they doing? They're adding to it. So if you have fortified Frosted Flakes, fortified grains, they add many, many things to it. The most fortified breakfast cereal of all times, if it was the most fortified breakfast cereal, okay, follow me on this, of all time, it would have had the most extra things added to it as you've ever seen before, and that would make it the most fortified Frosted Flakes you've ever seen. I don't know, just something fun to think about. You guys know what I'm saying? All right, this was written to the Honorable Merrick Garland. They need to get rid of that. We don't have lords and ladies in this country. Does that get on some of you guys' nerves anytime they write this crap? The Honorable. I don't think so. Merrick Garland. Let's see here. The Honorable Merrick Garland, Attorney General Garland and Acting Director Richardson. This would be from the AFT. We write to express our grave concern over the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF continued pattern of enforcing secret guidance. Wait, is this the KGB? Well, I don't know. Hold on, secret guidance? This must be the KGB. I mean, look at all of these Tula Arsenal socialist stars in here. Hold on. Let me keep reading. Maybe they'll tell you what country we're living in. Okay. We write to express our grave concern that the ATF has a continued pattern of enforcing secret guidance. This secret guidance was brought to our attention by those who have received recent threatening letters, where the ATF makes blanket threats based on the recipient allegedly purchasing and possessing various firearms, accessories, none of which are illegal based on any statute or regulation. I thought the Congress writes laws. I think that's what the Constitution said. Somebody fact check me. Well, that's partially true. See, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Congress writes law. All right, makes sense. These letters are in addition to an internal ATF email ordering seizure of various items and referring to those in possession as defendants. That has a very specific legal meaning. Defendant, it's called. The defendant. We find this pattern of secret regulation incredibly troubling. In the letters, the ATF claims, without offering any explanation as to why that popular item known as solvent trap and forced reset triggers, I didn't forget about you trigger guys, I told you I was coming to this, are registered silencers and machine guns respectively, and therefore subject to regulation under the National Firearms Act. One such letter threatens that possession of any of the unregistered silencer devices could result in prosecution for criminal violation of federal law and instructs recipients to contact their local AFT field office within 30 days to coordinate the abandonment of any silencer. Yeah, that's called being deprived of property without due process of law. I told you guys the Bill of Rights is an awesome document. We need to read that more often. All right. Deprived of property without due process of law. Just turn it in. Abandonment of any silencers. The transfer or possession of an unregistered silencer or machine gun carries with it a penalty up to 10 years in prison. That's true. Similarly, an ATF email dated January 26, 2022 ordered ATF agents to search out and demand voluntary surrender. They put in air quotes voluntary, which means, do you like your dog? Yes, just hand over the trigger. All right. Surrender of the 2 models of forced reset triggers, or otherwise, if the manufacturer seller refuses to advantage, you guys knew there was more. If you refuse to abandon the items, please take custody of the items and seize them for forfeiture. Yeah. The ATF email referred to those law-abiding citizens in possession of such triggers as defendants. The ATF email referred to those law-abiding. I already said that. Despite the significant criminal consequences attached to the unlawful manufacture, sale, and possession of NFA items, AFT has never issued any public guidance differentiating a silencer from a solvent trap or informing the public that it considers certain forced reset triggers to be machine guns. Notwithstanding the glaring absence of any such public guidance, the classification of solvent trap as a silencer is contrary to the plain language of 18 U.S.C. This is what's going on right now. All gun control is unconstitutional. Every single last one. That's literally what the Second Amendment says, which is the law of the land. And they're saying even if you go by these unconstitutional laws, they're not following them. Let me read this letter just a little bit further here. What's happening, Joe Percetti? I think he has some good news for us. Let me get through the letter just for a second, though. In addition to the ATF's threatening letters, it has recently come to our attention that the ATF has formulated secret internal guidance documents to assist ATF personnel tasked with differentiating so-called solvent traps from firearm silencers and to assist with identifying certain machine gun conversion devices, commonly referred to as FRTs. These documents contain summaries of the standards that the Firearms and Ammunition Technology Division purportedly uses to classify items. Disturbingly, ATF made these documents available only to those tasked with enforcing the law. rather than those who strive to comply with it. I don't know if I agree with that. How many of you guys are striving? I mean, yes, Susan, wiki, we strive. We strive to comply. Absolutely, we strive to comply. It says, rather than those who strive to comply with it. Indeed, ATF marked these documents as law enforcement sensitive to conceal them from the firearms industry and the American people. We find the ATF's attempt to conceal its interpretation of law disturbing. In a free society, every citizen is presumed to know the law. Thus, as the Supreme Court has said, it needs no argument to show that all should have free access to the law's contents, including, in addition to the text of a statute, those materials which constitute the authentic exposition and interpretation of the law. So, in other words, you can't enforce a law on somebody without letting them read it or know that it exists. Well, obviously, in America, anyways. Our government, including the ATF, has a duty to inform Americans what they must do to comply with federal law. Why don't they just say we shall not comply with any of this? But I'm going to keep reading. I wish they would say that. All gun control is unconstitutional. We could just skip all this. But we're not there yet. Especially when the conduct involves an exercise of an enumerated constitutional right, natural right endowed by your creator, protected by the Constitution, but as they're putting it, an enumerated constitutional right, and violations could result in a penalty up to 10 years in prison. The use of secret law is anathema to our system of government. The United States Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit said a designation by an unnamed official using unspecified criteria that is put in a desk drawer, taken out only for use at a criminal trial, and immune from any evaluation by the judiciary, is the sort of tactic usually associated with totalitarian regimes. Yet, that is exactly what the ATF has done in this and other cases. With this attempted secret regulation, the ATF shows an abject disregard for the fundamental principles of due process and accountable governance. Federal agencies cannot enforce the law in this manner. In light of the above, we respectfully request that the U.S. Department of Justice and ATF provide the following no later than March 25th, 2022. All internal instructions, directives, or guidance to any and all employee and or contractors assigned to or working with Firearms and Ammunition Technology Division containing criteria, factors, or indicators to be used to make the determination of whether a solvent trap is classified as a silencer subject to regulation under the NFA. All internal instructions, directives, or guidance to any and all employees and or contractors assigned to or working with the Firearms and Ammunition Technology Division containing criteria, factors, or indicators to be used to make the determination whether a forced reset trigger is classified as a machine gun and subject to regulation under the National Firearms Act. Copies of all publications through which the ATF has made such guidance and criteria available to ATF agents, including all Firearms and Ammunition Technology Division, that's what they call FAT-D, technical bulletins issued regarding solvent traps and forced reset triggers, including copies of each. An explanation as to how those bulletins are used by law enforcement, and last, an explanation as to why documents with similar guidance have not been made available to the public. And then they close. The ATF is charged by law with enforcing the nation's federal firearms laws and providing regulatory oversight of the firearms industry. The ATF simply has no authority to conceal public guidance and then enforce it on unsuspecting Americans. The ATF must issue only those regulations authored by Congress, provide notice of the proposed regulations, then provide the American people with an opportunity to comment before a new rule goes into effect. And I don't agree with everything in here because we shouldn't even be able to have rules and laws that are repugnant to the Constitution. But this is cool that all of these senators, here's some of the undersigned, did speak out against it and did sign this letter. And there's a few notable Republican senators that weren't on here. I got this from Senator Lee's website. Okay, I'm just skimming it real quick here. I don't see Rand Paul on here, which is interesting. I don't see Mitch. Where's McConnell at? Don't see them either. The link for this is down in the description. You guys can check that out. But yeah, they just got called out by the United States Senate for having secret rules where they're actually like trying to deem solvent traps to be silencers or mufflers. That's the legal terminology for all this. That's what the National Firearms Act calls this stuff. We call it suppressor. It's legally called silencer because the original Maxim patent for it patented it in the U.S. Patents Office as a silencer. So I just forgot to tell you guys that because a lot of people are like, 2A EDU, don't call it a silencer because it doesn't make the firearm silent. I know. Very rare instances, certain 22s, 300 blackouts, but no, I know it doesn't make it silent. But if we're talking legal terminologies, that is what it's legally called. You know what I'm saying? As a silencer or muffler. Did I have some chats there, Linda? And then I'm going to read this Tree of Liberty letter because a lot of people ask me all the time, man, where's our line in the sand? What's going on? Did this just now start happening? And no, people were talking about this stuff actually like 250 years ago. And I'm going to read a quote from a letter here in just a second. Joseph Pichetti with the super chat, Edu Channel Member. Thanks, man. He said the governor of Alabama signed into law, no permit needed to carry concealed handgun on your person, in a vehicle, bag, purse, etc. Awesome, man. That's cool. I heard about that. I heard it first where you posted it in locals. I think it was yesterday, right? So thanks, man. Another super chat. Well, thanks for being generous, Joe. I appreciate it. He says no permit required for concealed carry in Alabama, signed into law yesterday by the governor, Kay Ivey. So the governor of Alabama. So congrats to all you guys in Alabama. I heard Georgia. That's your neighbor down there in the south, right, Joe? Is that a friendly rivalry or not? I've heard, I don't know, man. The Crimson Tide versus the Dogs, the Bulldogs. I don't know. Here's what I've heard. I've heard some people from Georgia and Alabama are friends, but sometimes you guys are enemies, especially when it comes to college football, right? Somebody said, Steve0545, channel support in the chat. I was going to leave a long comment on the AFT rules, but ended up with let's go, Brandon. That's all I got. Well, hey, man, if that's what you want to tell them, right? You have the right to talk to your government. You can write them letters. You can, All right. Ohio here, Lance Webb says. Yeah, man. Our state to the south, right? Yeah, people from Michigan, Ohio are supposed to hate each other. But I've told you guys this before. My daughter was born in Ohio. So for that reason alone, I'll give Ohio a little bit of a pass. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't move to Ohio. She had to go to a hospital down there where she could get extra special care for a long period of time, actually. She lived down there in Ohio in a hospital. All right. So you guys hear the famous quote, and I talked about it briefly in my Q&A video that I posted. I'm doing a new perk for supporters. You guys can ask questions every month or two or so, and then I'll make the video public so everyone can enjoy the comment. And I kind of cited this. So people think to themselves, well, hold on a minute. No, Ben Franklin said literally at the founding of this country, a republic if you can keep it. And that meant literally that day, the next 10 years after that, and the next 200 and something years after that, right? So this is called the Tree of Liberty quotation. And I left a link to this down there in the description. In a 1787 letter to William Stephen Smith, the son-in-law of John Adams, Thomas Jefferson used the phrase Tree of Liberty. Are you guys familiar with it? The former vice president, we call him. Remember, he misquoted it. He said something like, you guys can talk about the blood of patriots all you want, but we have F-14s and nukes. Do you guys remember that? Give me a break. No, it was the blood of patriots and tyrants, Mr. Former Vice President. But I digress. I do not know whether it is to yourself or Mr. Adams I am to give my thanks for the copy of the new Constitution. I beg leave through you to place them where due. It will be yet 3 weeks before I shall receive them from America. There are very good articles in it and very bad. I do not know which preponderate. What we have lately read in the history of Holland in the chapter of the stadtholder would have sufficed to set me against a chief magistrate eligible for a long duration. If I had ever been disposed towards one, and what we have always reads of the elections of Polish kings should have forever excluded the idea of one continuable for life. So they're talking about this idea of somebody being put in for the rest of their life. What about these unelected bureaucrats in the AFT? What about people in the federal courts? He's talking about a lot of the stuff. Believe it or not, we're talking about it right now. Wonderful is the effect of impudent and persevering lying. The British ministry have so long hired their gazetteers to repeat and model into every form lies about our being in anarchy, that the world has at length believed them. The English nation has believed them. The ministers themselves have come to believe them. And what is more wonderful, we have believed them ourselves. Yet where does this anarchy exist? Where did it ever exist? Except in the single instance of Massachusetts? And can history produce an instance of a rebellion so honorably conducted? I say nothing of its motives. They were founded in ignorance, not wickedness. God forbid we should ever be 20 years without such a rebellion. Wow, 20 years without such a rebellion. The people cannot be all and always well informed. The part which is wrong will be discontented in proportion to the importance of the facts that they misconceive. If they remain quiet under such misconceptions, it is lethargy, the forerunner of death to the public liberty. Lethargy, meaning lazy, is the death of the public liberty. That's what I was talking about earlier, guys. We can't be lazy anymore. Now listen to this. We have had 13 states independently 11 years. There has been but one rebellion. That comes to one rebellion in a century and a half for each state. What country before ever existed a century and a half without a rebellion? And what country can preserve its liberties if the rulers are not warned from time to time that their people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms. The remedy is to set them right as to facts, pardon and pacify them. What signify a few lives lost in a century or two? The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. It is its natural manure. Our convention has been too much impressed by the insurrection of Massachusetts, and in the spur of the moment, they are setting up a kite to keep the hen yard in order. I hope in God this article will be rectified before the new Constitution is accepted. That's literally what Thomas Jefferson said right before the Constitution. This was a letter in 1787, the Constitution 1788. Think about that for a minute. He literally says right here, what country before ever existed a century and a half without a rebellion? Well, that's the question. Then he says the why right afterwards. And what country can preserve its liberties if the rulers are not warned from time to time that their people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms. That's not me saying this, Susan. I'm literally reading a historical document. My source is cited from the official Monticello website. Thomas Jefferson said, let them take arms. He couldn't believe it. He said, he did the quick mental math, right? If you go back and look, we've had 13 states independent for 11 years. Combine that adds up to a century and a half. And how could we possibly still have any liberty yet that we had gone that long, in his opinion, without warning the government? This article's always been an interesting read to me. It's kind of a difficult read to read out loud because it's just written in that old English where he words it kind of weird. And I may have mispronounced a couple words, but I get the essence of it. And I think you guys do too. And although it may be hard to read some of the particular words and to read it in the exact cadence that he writes it in, the overwhelming idea is pretty darn simple. Freedom isn't free. It was never going to be free. And it isn't free today. Ben Franklin said a republic if you can keep it. Thomas Jefferson said that he couldn't believe it, that a century and a half had combined, 13 states, independent 11 years, there had not been one rebellion. He was starting to wonder how we were even going to remain free in 1787. Wow. Just think about that. And then people have often asked me, and I ask myself this too, I think about this stuff a lot. And I don't mean they ask me like I'm going to give them an answer, because I don't really have any definitive answers, but I think this is a good place that we can sit and talk about this stuff, don't you guys? And you guys actually give me a lot of wisdom and a lot of answers too. And people say, but why are they going to let us do that? Why are we going to let them do this ghost gun ban and all the millions of other things in it? Why are we going to let them do the braces? Is there a line in the sand? Why are people still going to deal with this? And I'm like, look, I don't know why people are doing what they're doing right now. But this topic was discussed even 11 years before Jefferson wrote that letter. And actually, you can sit here and think about this, what I'm about to read to you. And it was very applicable in 1776. And some of you are thinking, dude, like, were these founding fathers psychic? Because I think it actually talks almost exactly about what's going on literally right now. And it goes back to what I said earlier. People are like, but where's the loophole? But can I pass the worksheet? Is there a grandfather clause? If there's just a little something that makes it where these evils are sufferable for people, they usually actually find themselves quite content. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily you or any one person, but we, the people. Yeah. William says if nobody complied, they could not enforce this garbage. Absolutely. Good night, Joe Pachetti. You might want to hang around for 10 more seconds, because this talks about it a lot. And I know I read this, guys, a lot. But I think we should all read this a lot, because this is very, very important stuff. And there's a lot of answers within here, and a lot of wisdom and a lot of encouragement. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. That's a very strong word. You're entitled to these rights. Don't you ever forget that. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Like, literally so beautiful. Think about that. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What more would you need? Literally. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them would mean like you and me, as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. And here's an answer right now to a question a lot of us are asking. It's literally right here. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. We've become very accustomed, if you guys think about it, to all this. Probably like way too very accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. And they go on to say, such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies. And they were suffering from it back then. And when Ben Franklin was asked, do we have a republic or a monarchy? That was a very serious question. It's an important question. I want you guys to ask that of yourselves right now. A republic or a monarchy? He said a republic if you can keep it. But when I see these AFT documents that are 76 pages long, and in my opinion are acting as the judge, the jury, the legislator, law enforcement all in one, it really starts making me think about some of these founding fathers types questions. And I think these questions are probably in many ways many, many ways just as applicable now as they were back then. And I suggest you guys read some of this stuff. And I'm going to keep talking more about the frames and receivers thing as time goes on here because it's coming soon. And I do want to get a couple guests on and have them bring in some of their unique perspectives. So I'm working on the logistics of that. Meanwhile, I'm going to see you guys back on here again next Friday in South Carolina. I'm going to figure out a way to do it. I'm going to the PSA gathering event. Hopefully I'll see some of you guys there. It's open to the public 3 days. One of the days, the media day. I'm going to be there all 3 days. So you guys are invited Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Make sure you check it out. And in the meantime, I'll be over on local streaming tomorrow night and putting out more content there as well as YouTube throughout the next week. So I look forward to seeing all you guys. And I definitely look forward to checking all of the chat out later on. And no, we are not a democracy. We are a republic, a constitutional republic with rights, certain unalienable rights that are endowed by your creator. And I don't want you guys to forget that because that's very, very important stuff and very, very encouraging stuff. We are a republic, a constitutional republic with a representative form of government. So don't forget that either. A government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And that the people will decide which government will be most effective. That's what the founding documents say. So I hope all of you guys have a good weekend and I will be around. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching and have a good one.